Let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating source that is, honestly, going to completely flip how you think about networking. We are tossing out those polite, sugar-coated myths we've all been fed since childhood. Instead, we're diving headfirst into the strategic, often ruthless Machiavellian rules of social climbing. We're talking about the unspoken laws of power, pulled from the brilliant yet definitely controversial observations of Niccolo Machiavelli from 500 years ago and mapping them directly onto today's modern world. So let's jump right into this explainer and see what we can uncover together. Right off the bat, picture this. You're at a distant relative's wedding, having a good time, and you suddenly realize an incredibly powerful billionaire is standing right there. We're talking about someone who could literally advance your career by 10 years with a single introduction. Someone introduces you, and boom, you have exactly 5 minutes to carve out a space in their mind. I want you to genuinely really think about this for a second. What is your absolute first instinct? What do you say to them? Well, if you went with what most people do, you've already lost. Your instinct was probably one of 3 things, right? You introduce yourself and rattle off your resume. You immediately ask for a favor, or you play it super humble and say, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan, I just want to learn from you." And this brilliantly illustrates the core problem with how we approach power. Powerful people see favor seekers as just another beggar adding to their daily headache. If you brag, you just look insecure. And if you play the fan card, you're literally categorizing yourself as a follower, not a partner. They don't collect fans, guys, they collect allies.
Which brings us to the dark reality of power.
To really grasp why this happens, we have to look at where these rules actually come from. You see, Machiavelli wasn't writing corporate self-help books. He was writing to survive the incredibly cutthroat politics of 16th century Florence, a place where politics meant betrayal, conspiracies, and literal shifting kings. Machiavelli was a diplomat who was ousted, tortured, and exiled. And from that exile, he observed a harsh reality that, frankly, perfectly maps onto our modern corporate hierarchies and investor meetings today. The world doesn't run on morality. It runs on perception, utility, and the balance of fear and respect. Which brings us to his most famous and probably most misunderstood quote: "If you cannot be both, it is better to be feared than loved." Now hold on, you don't need to turn into a supervillain here. The psychological truth behind this is that the powerful respect utility and absolute confidence way more than they value affection. Affection changes, but respect, that endures. You shouldn't be looking for their sympathy. You have to command their respect.
So how do we actually do that? Phase 1, solutions over necessities.
It is officially time to pivot your mindset. Stop approaching power as a beggar and start approaching it as a partner. The golden rule here is solutions over necessities. Never, and I mean never, approach a powerful person with your needs. The very second you show desperation, your value absolutely tanks. But the moment you show capability, you change the entire game. Powerful people are constantly swarmed by takers and yes men pretending to be allies. Your job is to be the stabilizer. You want to be the person who quietly makes their life easier. You aren't competing with their power, you're completing it. To really see this in action, the source material gives us this incredible story about a young Andrew Carnegie back in the 1850s. He was just working in a telegraph office, but he noticed his boss, a high-ranking railway official, was constantly stressed out by having to make these rapid-fire decisions. So what did Carnegie do? He didn't go in and beg for a promotion, no way. He quietly stayed late, secretly learned the specialized telegraph codes that only the senior officials knew, and he just waited. One day the boss is out, and an urgent message comes in. Carnegie decodes it and makes the exact right decision all by himself. When the boss gets back, Carnegie doesn't brag. He just proved through action that he was an indispensable solution to an emergency. That one silent, highly capable move put him on the track to becoming one of the wealthiest men in American history. And hey, this isn't just dusty history. Look at Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb. When he was trying to win over the legendary Silicon Valley investor Paul Graham, Chesky didn't just walk in with his hand out begging for cash. He observed. He studied Graham's interviews and realized the guy valued relentless creative grit above literally everything else. So Chesky pitched him a story. He explained how, when Airbnb had zero funding, they actually designed and sold joke political cereal boxes during the Obama-McCain election just to keep the lights on. Graham didn't invest because he liked cereal. He invested because Chesky proved he was a scrappy fighter, not a needy beggar. He proved his team's relentless hustle. But here's the catch. Presenting a solution also requires mirroring. You've got to mirror their world, their energy, their values. If they're super practical, speak in practical terms. Formal, keep it formal.
But, and this is a massive but, keep your full capabilities a mystery. Machiavelli's absolute genius was realizing that revealing your skills a little bit at a time creates demand. If you put all your cards on the table on day one, you're just a predictable product. Hold back just enough, and they sense this hidden depth to you. That's how you remain irreplaceable and honestly incredibly intriguing.
Moving right along to phase 2, strategic alliances and flattery.
Okay, let's dive into this. Now that you've got their attention, it is all about execution. You're in the room, so how do you interact without stepping on the wrong toes? Rule number 1 here, never outshine the master. Even if you are 10 times more capable, you cannot parade it around openly. The ego of the powerful, it is extremely fragile. People who try to look larger than the king always, inevitably, get crushed. Instead of showing off your own brilliance, your entire strategy should be to make your boss look brilliant. And when you use flattery, skip the generic stuff. Compliment their timing on a really specific decision. Tie your praise to the exact things they're secretly proud of.
Also, we need to stop obsessing over the person at the very top. You've got to build what we call sideways alliances. The true power brokers in a company aren't always the CEOs. They are the gatekeepers. We're talking the CEO's secretary, the minister's personal assistant, the trusted advisor. Machiavelli referred to them as the invisible princes. They are the ones who quietly control access and whisper in the right ears. Befriend them, offer them small favors, and I promise you, they will elevate your name without you ever having to ask. Now, when you do finally get that favor or opportunity from someone powerful, how you respond dictates everything. A simple thank you is the language of a servant. It keeps you subservient. What you actually need is action-backed gratitude. You repay a favor by actively contributing value back to their goals. They give you a job, execute it so flawlessly that it validates their genius for hiring you in the first place. They introduce you to someone, report back on how you turned it into a massive win for everyone. You have to elevate yourself from a favor receiver to a valuable contributor.
And interestingly enough, complete surrender is actually a fast track to disrespect. The source dives into this concept of subtle rebellion. If you're just blindly agreeing with everything, you look like a yes man with zero backbone. Powerful people literally cannot trust someone without a spine, so you have to carefully, intelligently push back sometimes. The trick is to frame your disagreement as protecting their best interests. A little bit of friction proves you have your own mind, and that commands serious respect.
Which leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. Phase 3, walk like you belong.
This right here is the ultimate psychological mindset shift. It's all about how you carry yourself, physically and mentally, in high-stakes rooms before you've officially earned your seat at the table. 2 rules here. First, control your visibility. Overexposure makes you common. If you're always accessible, always chiming in, your novelty fades. Get a win, and then step back. Let other people speak your name. Scarcity creates value. Second, carry the posture of absolute certainty. When you walk into a powerful environment, do not wait for permission. Power naturally gravitates toward people who already act like they belong there.
To show you just how insanely persuasive this kind of certainty can be, the source tells the wild story of Victor Lustig. He was a con man in early 20th century France who literally sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal to a group of wealthy dealers. I mean, how is that even possible? He had zero actual authority, but he created a fake government identity, rented a crazy luxury suite, sent out these official-looking letters, and just operated with unapologetic, unwavering confidence. He acted exactly how a high-ranking official would act, and the dealers bought it because he left absolutely zero room for doubt. Now, obviously, the lesson here isn't to go run a scam. The lesson is that unwavering confidence is so potent, it completely bypasses logic. If a con man can do that with total lies, just imagine what you can achieve with genuine skills and that exact same level of certainty. All right, let's do a really quick recap of the 3 most vital takeaways from this explainer, just so you have a crystal clear roadmap. Number 1, always show your value as a solution, never your desperate need. Number 2, never let your own brilliance outshine the fragile ego of your boss. And number 3, build those sideways alliances with the gatekeepers, because the real power is usually sitting right next to the throne. And that brings us to one final, really provocative thought from the source material. The world operates on appearances, utility, and basic human nature. You can sit back and complain that these rules are totally unfair, or you can accept the reality of how the game is actually played and win by its rules. The choice is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there and test these dynamics of power for yourself.